born on the farm, raised on the farm, and moved off of the farm 50 years ago. I was always looking to do something more efficient, so we had to eat. And so getting the chemical to the target, it was necessary. And if you didn't get it there, then the insects would come in and take care of it. We knew that existing applications did not solve the problem. It had not for 50 years. The applicators that we applied it with proved that.
Well, I grew up on a farm, and my dad, of course, was, the farmer, and I would see him just drenched with spray because, of course, the spray just drifted all over, and he would come back home just drenched. He'd always get a shower, but, he was still drenched to begin with, and he had a lot of health issues. And looking back, there's a connection there between all that spray and his health issues.
When I came down to Florida, I'd see these big sprayers. You could actually see the spray material 300 feet in the air. That's not doing us any good. That is when I started thinking about magnetics. The Lord just gave me that brain to say, let's get some magnets. From that, we found that the magnetism was the way to stop the drift and then improve the coverage. We saw it worked.
I remember picking up these little squares and checking the droplets. There wasn't the drift, there was less water needed and less chemicals, so we knew it was a great invention. We just had to get people aware of it and be willing to use it.
The demand for it, none of that grew.
While seeing is believing, Ted and Joyce witnessed the effect firsthand. They saw drift dramatically reduced and coverage significantly increase, all thanks to the power of magnetic technology. Yet convincing the world of such a simple yet revolutionary idea was no easy feat. For a moment, an innovation destined to reshape global agriculture teetered on the brink of obscurity.
Until we finally got together with the Wickhams. This is where my wife really comes into it. She encountered some people from Ireland.
So my late brother Derek was buying a house in Florida, and he was dealing with a realtor, a lady called Joyce Lenhart.
They bought some houses, so Joyce took them out for dinner.
And they had a very interesting conversation over dinner. And Ted's background as a farmer from Michigan, and he saw the challenges with conventional pesticide spraying. You couldn't get both good drift control and good coverage. There was always a compromise. As an engineering method, he started playing around with magnets, and he got some interesting results. And then he convinced my brother, Derek, to invest $50,000. But they were still struggling to get past the goal. And I said to him one day, you need to commercialize this. And so we're going to revolutionize spraying. And we set up a company called Agricultural Magnetics Limited, trading as Magro, now MagrowTec. And nothing in that office, David and I, no salaries, my credit card. And that's the start of the journey. And when I started this journey, I've never been on a farm in my life. How am I going to take this and build out the vision and the dream that we have to have this technology on every farm of the world? So I was fearful, but I had one very important person behind me, and that was my wife.
Once at the helm of a thriving business with over 5,000 employees, Gary saw more than just a technology. He saw a vision so compelling that he traded the comforts of corporate success for the uncertainties of a startup. Alongside David Moore, they embarked on a mission driven not by wealth, but by the potential to revolutionize the agricultural world. From the vast expanse of a corporate position to the confines of a tiny office, the MagrowTec journey was fueled by belief, determination, and the unwavering support of those who believed in them.
We were going to make mistakes, but I knew that whatever mistakes we made, I would pivot and learn quickly. I got a few investors to come in with me to co-match, and then we were able to patent the technology worldwide to the point that it was patented in 85% of our addressable market. And then we met Arnott and Frank.
I think it was about 9 or 10 years ago. It was the early beginning of a business colleague of mine. And I didn't believe it, to be honest. And I think 2 years later, when I spoke to Gary and David, I started to realize this could be something, to change the world.
And without his funding and support, I wouldn't be talking here today. MagrowTec would not happen. There's many key people along the line, but he's one of the significant people. He believed in me, believed in us, believed in the team, believed in the technology. And then I met a gentleman called Ian Moore.
They started talking about magnetic technology. I'm an engineer, I'm an electrical engineer, so I understood a certain extent of what they were doing and how they were doing it. You're cutting down on chemicals, you're cutting down on water, you're cutting down on drift, and it's environmentally friendly, which is ticks all the boxes. So that's basically why I did it.
He's a significant investor, and the two main supporters of the business now are Frank and Ian. And then I met a lady called Faye Walsh-Juilliard, an American lady living in Ireland, has worked all over the world.
I think what I really enjoyed about Gary and about this business at the time was the vision for the future, big vision, where this technology could be applied in a number of different ways, and that the first play would be in agriculture, and that it could have significant outsized impact over time, as opposed to just a trendy product for use. It's something that could significantly shift and change agriculture and in a way that not very many technologies have done. And of course, food is one of the most important aspects of how we live on the planet.
And so those three people have been incredible supporters for the business, and without their support, as I said, MagrowTec would not be still here today, because you do need patient capital for AgTech as well.
With a vision as vast as the fields they hope to transform, Gary and his team gathered the support of forward-thinking investors like Frank and Ian. Yet every innovation faces its test. For MagrowTec, it wasn't just about securing funds, but about sowing belief in the hearts of those who matter most, the farmers. In an industry steeped in tradition, how do you introduce a revolution? How do you convince those tilling the earth that this isn't just another fleeting trend, but a transformative shift in agriculture?
And most people, farmers, commercial people, business people go, tell me how the technology works. So in the simplest way is that how it works, it's a simple 5-step process. So basically, we use permanent rare earth magnets and we install it in manifolds and rods onto, as a retrofit system, or indeed new sprayers, onto a tractor. And basically the fluid passes through that along rods, permanent magnetic rods that are in the fluid line, and they basically get a kicker or a booster. And so they're exposed to magnetic fields. And when they're exposed to both the initial field and the booster system, they change the physical and chemical, mainly physical properties of the fluid. And that when we change those fluid properties, we get less of the smaller droplets that drift into the atmosphere, and we get less of, that's called exodrift. We get less of the larger droplets that scatter, bounce, or run off the weed or crop, that we call endodrift, which is the biggest problem.
Drift is a big issue in spraying, especially in small farms that neighboring others. And that is certainly minimized to a quantifiable extent by the application of Magro technology versus any regular sprayer. And if actual farmers can benefit from it, we all benefit from it. So this is the big thing for me.
Let's say a lot of chemicals go into the air, into the water streams, into the farmer, the operator. So it's very damaging, it pollutes the air. So I think if we can reduce that, we can reduce pollution a lot. We can reduce a lot of waste of chemicals in streams and rivers and in the air we breathe.
We get more of the right size droplets by changing those properties that stick. So not only will you get more of the droplets, we change their features and their behavior and the droplets themselves, that more of the right droplets get there and they stay there. And in fact, the industry has developed adjuvant and surfactants. Really, they're wetting agents and they change the contact angle. It's a $1 billion industry to try and do that chemically. Well, what we're doing is chemically and physically, we're doing the same thing.
Used to you'd have to run surfactant pretty much to everything, especially gramoxone, so you get that sticker and drift. And when I first started trying the Magro system, I ran some with it, then I got where I quit running it. So I've been getting killed on everything without running surfactants or anything with my gramoxone. It's hard to beat. I bought 2 of them.
Magnetic fields would have influence on how the liquid moves through the various parts of the rig. And as we're dealing with rather nonlinear, very complicated bit of physics, the actual spraying, the actual breaking off of a sheet of liquids that's ejected at high pressure from a nozzle into individual droplets, and how those droplets then would be flying through, landing on a canopy. That's all very, very complicated. That's what we call badly nonlinear critical phenomena type physics. And it's never going to be simple.
So I knew we were going to hear it's witchcraft, snake oil, voodoo.
I mean, I think it sounds like magic, right? To say, oh, well, we've used the power of magnetics to change the property of the water and the pesticide. Well, what does that mean?
I knew the only way we were going to succeed was not the traditional route, was that we needed to build out 5 scientific pillars.
Where skepticism often meets innovation, Gary Wickham understood that the foundation of MagrowTec's success would not be built on mere claims, but on rigorous scientific validation. He envisioned a company anchored by 5 unwavering pillars: empirical data, to provide undeniable evidence; crop science, to understand the very essence of what farmers cultivate; applied science, ensuring the technology's practicality in real-world scenarios; field research, to test and refine in the very fields it aims to transform; and customer data, to listen, learn, and evolve based on the feedback of those who matter most, the farmers. It's not just about introducing a technology, but about earning trust, one scientific proof at a time. And with partnerships like Amber at Trinity College Dublin and the Agri Epicenter in the UK, MagrowTec is not just about making claims, but proving them, underlying the importance of science in the journey of innovation.
And that's working with the best lab-based scientists in the world that we're going to develop that out. And in that case, building out empirical data, we collaborate with Amber, which stands for Advanced Material Bioengineering Research Centre, which is based in Trinity College Dublin. And the gentleman there is Professor Mike Coey and his team. They're in the physics area. And what Amber does is that it connects academics who are experts in different materials with industry. So in our case, it was around magnetic treatment of fluid.
So the collaboration with MagrowTec is an interesting collaboration because it's not been in our portfolio of research projects that Professor Coey and Professor Stamanoff would have worked in before.
I was first shocked, I would say, at our very first meeting with our colleagues from MagrowTec. A very clear contrast. 2 spraying rigs being put behind 2 tractors running almost in parallel. One equipped with Magro technology and one not was stunning. And the mixture of physics, chemistry, hydrodynamics, magnetics, it's making it complicated. So to try to pinpoint the root cause of the effects would have been our first line of investigations, really.
And part of our strategy is to grow our research areas into sectors such as sustainability and agri-tech. And through the collaboration with MagrowTec, we've been able to marry a agri-tech company and a academic researcher that we would never have done before.
We would not have gone into these collaborations if we did not firmly believe that Magro is science-led as a company. They have this deep and intrinsic need to understand the science behind what they do, behind the spraying technology, behind spraying in general, and go into aspects for the fields for the future.
So even though the technology is simple and easy to use and install, the science is extremely complex, really, really complex. So you need that empirical, and we couldn't have done that on our own. And then you have someone like Mike, who's recognized as one of the world's, leaders. And then we needed crop science. These are the people that deal with the agronomists, with customers and farmers, understand the chemistry, the different products, insecticide, biologic products, whether they're systemic or contact herbicides, or indeed insecticide. And I eventually found a gentleman called Nick Jessup. And Nick used to work for the International Pesticide Research Centre. He works for entrepreneurs, developing new insecticide.
MagrowTec was going through a very rapid discovery phase where we were doing lots and lots of different trials, looking at lots and lots of different things. And I guess with the background and the sort of expertise that I have, one of the objectives I was given was to try and formalize that a little bit, add more structure to it, start building up a good data room for the business.
Nick found a perfect location near where he lives, and that's where we built the MARC Centre. So basically MARC stands for the MagrowTec Agricultural Research Centre, and basically we housed all the facilities together.
We're always looking to see if we can do it better or add new techniques. Part of my remit in the business is to look at new technologies coming in, new ways of testing spray in the field and seeing if we can apply those to our technology.
And then we said, what technology do we need that's going to be state of art that allows us to get around some of the issues around field trials? Hurricanes in America, tornadoes, we've had both, destroy crops for farmers. It's shocking when it happens, or trials are delayed because there's a blight warning, or they need to get harvest done, or we need 2 sprayers and 1 breaks down. We've had all of those challenges. So yes, we still need to do field studies, but what if you could do it in a controlled environment?
So in the lab, you have far greater control over the factors within the experiment, but you lose some of the realism of the study.
We take our findings that are, first of all, conducted under very controlled conditions here at the centre, with highly regulated metrics such as forward speed and pressure and flow rates through the manifolds. And depending on the grower-specific scenario in the field, we're able to replicate those parameters within the system and find a specific prescription for how best we go forward when running field trials in the field.
When you go to the field, you get the realism, but you lose the control. So what we try and do is marry the two up together, so we can derive useful data within a controlled setting.
And so we invested in the first company in the world to buy a track sprayer, an environmentally controlled track sprayer that allows us to run a both conventional sprayer and a magnetic sprayer in a controlled way. We can simulate all those with different nozzles, different pressures, on a track that can go up to 19 kilometers an hour.
Effectively, the equipment behind me allows for an enormous scope for pressures, forward speeds, flow rates, and flow paths through manifolds to compare Magro and non-Magro treatments. Say 24 meter, 50 centimeter boom nozzle spacing sprayer in Europe, all the way up to very high pressure systems in the US.
And we can build data for growers to say, what are you currently doing? Well, this is what you should be doing. These are the pressures, these are the nozzles. And we use things like water sensitive paper tests, and we can look at deposition, droplet size, drift. We run them through a wave scanner, and you can do all sort of curve analysis. And we do things like UV nighttime studies, and we do season-long studies with customers. We have customers making claim that when they use our technology, they're saving their crop.
You want them to authentically say, this worked for us, let me show you the process, I'm never going back.
We fitted the Magro 2 years ago. We grabbed hold of it. We haven't looked back since we fitted it. The cost savings we're getting out of it every day are just mind-blowing.
Before, you could get out of the sprayer and look at the leaves, and you could see the droplets on the leaves. Well, with the Magro system, you can get out now, and it looks like somebody painted a sheet of paper across the leaves. You're getting so much better coverage.
Some instances we're cutting our water down by 40%. A lot of times we're running 20% versus conventional sprayer. Some of the contact killers we may be cutting 10 to 20% of the recommended rate, and that in turn presents quite a bit of savings.
So I'm excited to say that we've developed in parallel a technology after spending 2 years in Africa testing that indicates that we use over 50% less water, independently verified with government departments and customers, 50% less water, 50% less chemical, and grow 300% more food, and take about an eighth of the time to do a herbicide application without running out of the product. Farmers are saying that they can get out in double or triple the wind speed with our technology, which is a game changer, because if you have a blight warning or a disease warning, you need to get out.
You can see from the cab that your chemical does go down, and you do not see the swirls out into the other off-target field that we used to see with the conventional sprayer. Now with the Magro system, I've not had hardly any drift. I mean, if you got 8-10 mile an hour winds, it still stays right on. So, I mean, you're eliminating that factor. And after you spray with the Magro system, you can walk through it, and most of the water is on the plant. It's not on the ground like when you're not running. You can tell you're getting the coverage on it. It's like it bonds it to it.
There was hands down a night and day difference in the drift. If you pull up and the conventional sprayer is spraying, a lot of times if the wind's right, you can feel it hitting your face. We never had that with the Magro sprayer.
I was spraying Ingenia with the south wind that made me very, very nervous against rice, Ingenia and Roundup. And I never not once hurt one plant sitting right next to the field. And I'm talking about a 10, 15 mile an hour wind.
And of course, if you spray traditionally with drift, you're going to create a lot of waste. a lot of inputs, and they're very expensive now because they're oil-based, and oil has gone up in price, and we've seen, the inflationary pressures that farmers are having to deal with over the last couple of years with fertilizer and pesticides. So the less of that you can use and waste, the better. And so the crop science team play an incredibly important role in that. The third bit was field research centres, so working with, Pacific Ag Research, UC Davis in America, Wageningen University in Europe and Australia, and basically work with leading scientists, researchers in the food tech space and get them to do field trials. The other part is applied science. So you can have pure science, which Professor Coy and the team, which is your lab-based stuff, and then we have applied, where you're taking that knowledge and they're doing experiments to see, does it actually do what we think it does at a theoretical level? And they work closely with the crop science team. So when I met Tony Furness, he was semi-retired, a genius. He'd worked as a visiting professor at Harper Adams University in the UK. So we started talking. Didn't take much convincing because he loved the idea of what we were doing, to become our chief scientific officer, which he is today.
What impressed me a lot was that they were tackling this issue of magnetic assist. They weren't just prepared to give some glib explanations to how it works. They really wanted to know how it worked.
And from that, we built out our applied science team in the Agri-Equity Centre that works closely with Harper Adams University in the UK. And we have a team there working under Tony's guidance about refining our hypothesis, working on our emerging nanotechnology, and working on things like air blast and irrigation, and improving our existing technology to our knowledge on the science side.
Some significant papers came out on the quantum effects of magnetic fields in relation to aquaceous media. So that was the prompt to me to move forward with the theory that relates to what we're calling the MagrowTec effect, the effect that can explain the benefits that accrue from what you see in the field trials to do with droplet drift, to do with adhesion, to do with coverage, to do with runoff and so forth, the use of inputs and so forth.
You do studies, side-by-side studies, and you show the clear benefit of the Magro technology.
I see the prospects of that team growing quite considerably, because its primary role is to develop that understanding of the technologies and new technologies that come along, and being able to interpret what comes out of research activities in scientific terms.
And so the US will be our biggest market going forward. Actually, it's well over 50% of our future plans, and launching other products as well. We've lots of farmers now saying, I used to spray maybe 3 times a month, now I'm doing 1 a month or 2 a month. So they're saving 100% of labor, chemical, water when they do that. Machine hours, less machines, and then they're spraying less when they do spray events.
We're gaining about 8 acres per tank. So that can cut out an entire spray day during the week. That's huge for us, when at the same time getting us better, deeper penetration and more efficacy of the products we're applying. I mean, I think it will sell itself once you get your eyes on it.
And what's really important for me is that small farm holders, who represent 65% of the world's farmers, there's 500 million, 200 million in Africa alone and growing, and lots more in South America and Asia. But critically, you want to find the right fit and culture. So it's not hard in a company like MagrowTec, because everything we do is all about sustainability, helping farmers feed the world, protecting the environment. There's no damage. It's all good. So I think people get up every day going, I love what I do. And that's the culture we have in the organization.
And what I see in MagrowTec through Gary's leadership and his team is this quality culture. Yeah? Yeah? You feel you belong to a good company that's going places. And I believe it has the potential to go places.
So I remember one of our very first customers, Lane and Hosse in Friesland in the Netherlands. They don't want to take risks because they could lose their crop.
The problem with the agriculture industry is, with technology, is that it's been bombarded every day. It has been bombarded every day for the last 10 years with new technology, which in most cases it fails, or it breaks down and you can't get parts or whatever. So the farmer becomes very, very skeptical about new technology, and that's the hard sell. It's getting the farmer to believe in the technology you have and to convince them of that.
We met them and said, trust us, use this technology. It won't destroy your crop. And in fact, you won't regret it. And they did. And they started off using 10% less rate, less chemical and water, and they were happy with it. And to now, where they're using about 35% less chemical and water, they have it on all their sprayers. They're meeting the highest drift standards in the world.
When you achieve that goal, then you can start looking at reducing the amount you have to spray, because you're not compromising what's hitting the target, you're reducing the waste component.
We've got what's called a 97.5% drift accreditation. So that means we're meeting one of the highest standards in the world, if not the highest. They were saving loads of water. They were saving about 2 hours labour per day per spray event, plus spray events. So truly using less to do more. We have the same journey and story in Australia, America, and the rest of Europe.
We do a lot of insecticide work in the summertime with fungicides, and we found we were getting just as good a jobs with lower rates. And I grew a chickpea crop last year that got 1 fungicide for the whole season. If you've only got to do 1 pass instead of 3, you're in front of the game. And from a farmer, that's dollars in the pocket. And Magro should be on every spray rig that's running these new technologies. I think there's a little bit more to be untapped out of it yet. The next lap could be quite interesting.
And then we say to farmers, there's no maintenance with our technology. You install it, science is complex, but once you get it on, you don't have to worry about it. The dealers make more money because there's less call-outs, so there's no cables, power, wires, and unlike electronic systems that fail regularly, you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't need any power. You save diesel, you may have 2 or 3 less spray events in a period. So basically, truly sustainable, use less to do more and you don't worry about it. And you're helping to feed farmers' families before they feed the world.
Well, certainly the way that we've been farming the land for the last probably 100 years is incredibly dependent upon water. I would say water is one of the biggest challenges. And also trying to create and produce food at scale, which we've really been doing since after World War II, has also required an enormous amount of chemicals to help manage pests, et cetera, and to have better outcomes for farmers. However, over time, we've learned that that's actually causing a lot more trouble than it is good for food supply, in particularly with regard to the cost of inputs, so the cost of energy, the cost of water, and the cost of materials and labor to help have all of those spray events. It really is harmful to farmers because they're really working on margins. And as also energy costs go up, et cetera, it just becomes much more challenging for them. And on top of it, we also don't have an endless supply of natural resources. And then maybe the health side of things would be the pesticides. Not only are they probably overused, as we all know, on crops, it also gets into our waterways and causes enormous damage to the land. And then that can have public health consequences for anyone living in and around those farms.
We all know that we have to reach new heights in food production. And it's very clear that intensive agriculture has everything to do with it. So be it a small farm or an enormous multi-acres farm environment, it needs spraying. And we want to be a part of improving this.
By 2050, we'll have hit 9 billion. By the end of the century, 11 billion. So what does that mean? What that means is that we have to grow the same amount of food in the next 40 to 50 years as in the last 10,000 years combined. And yet, we're saying to farmers, you need to grow food to feed 2 billion more people, but we're going to give you less tools, less insecticides, herbicides, because we're banning them. There's also resistance issues from crops and insects and so on. I think everybody saw during COVID how finite and how finely balanced supply chains were. And now we're going to give them the biggest challenge ever. We're going to give you a technology, and we are giving you a technology that saves you time, it makes you resource efficient, input efficient. You're going to save chemical, labor, water. You'll have no maintenance. We're going to double your efficiency. You get way more acres sprayed. You're going to spend more time with your family. And by the way, you're going to protect the community and the planet. And you're going to grow all that food sustainably. And you're going to play your part in supporting. And the fantastic news is once you put it on, you don't need to worry about it. And it never uses energy ever again because the technology has a shelf life of 100 years or more. And so you can move it from sprayer to sprayer. And we have new applications coming in both ag and non-ag to support other challenges other growers have, and indeed other sectors of the world. And that's what gets me up every day, is going, we're going to help them do that.
Plus, you have people at home more as opposed to out on the field, and then you're getting better returns. I think that's the most basic thing that most families want. And if you're a farming family, where you are working sort of season to season and year to year, that can be life-changing. It can be absolutely a game changer for those farming families.
With the world demanding more from its farmers, MagrowTec emerges as a beacon of innovation. It's not merely a tool, but a promise to reshape agriculture for the better. It's not just about growing more with less, but about reimagining the very essence of farming for future generations. As we look to the horizon, MagrowTec's journey is only just beginning, poised to expand its impact beyond agriculture, touching lives and landscapes in ways we've yet to imagine.
So we come up with MagrowTec to solve the ag problem, so that we're a technology and IP company. We're not a singular product and singular technology, because we both magnetic assist and nano, emerging nano, and the two together. And then we will probably rebrand further with a corporate brand, because we'll go into non-ag. So we're set up for the future, and we're about to announce in both Australia, America, and Europe some really strong commercial partners on the back of customers using it for 3 or 4 years. So now we're going to have that brand awareness, the credibility, the collaboration, and people will stop asking me how the technology works. Some will still ask. They'll say, what other products do you have? And you know you're succeeding when the question changes a bit.
From a humble vision in a small office to a global force in agricultural innovation, MagrowTec stands as a testament to the power of belief and perseverance. Born from Ted's divine inspiration, nurtured by Gary and David's unwavering vision, and bolstered by the trust of investors like Frank and Ian, this isn't just merely a technological advancement. It's a movement that has overcome doubts, shattered barriers, and is now revolutionizing farming on a global scale. As the world grapples with mounting challenges, MagrowTec shines as a beacon, showing that with passion, innovation, and collaboration, we can not only meet these challenges, but surpass them, creating a brighter, more sustainable future for all.
We have a product that's successfully worked in the field for multiple seasons, that's truly delivering impact around the world. It's truly using less to do more. We have farmers using it in Australia, Europe, New Zealand, Canada, and America, which is fantastic. We've built a team of 45 people, and we have some of the best scientific minds in the world. We developed 3 technologies: a magnetic assist, an emerging nano, and the two combined. And we have some of the best technology in our research centers in the world, and we've built 2 of our research centers from scratch. I think that's pretty impressive in 10 years, and we've built a wonderful team to make that happen.
You know, it's so much pollution. Nobody says something about it, but it's very harmful for everybody. You know, with the simple technology, we can improve that. I think that's amazing, you know, to be part of that. That's, and also I think it's a legacy also. It's also for my children and grandchildren. You know, to have a better environment.
You're going to use less water, you're going to use less chemicals, and it's better for the environment because there's no chemicals or less chemicals going into the ground.
Our job as farmers is to be stewards of the land, and by running something like the Magro, I feel like that we are getting our chemicals on the target that they belong and getting good performance out of those chemicals to make the technology last as long as we can. We feel like it's been a benefit.
It's not a trend. It's not like a little magic spray that you're putting into your crops. This is a technology that will absolutely transform the way that you work the land every year across all different kinds of lands and different crops.
The major benefits of the Magro: less chemical, less water, better yield. Is there anything else to say?
I mean, you save 25% of your chemical bill. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's the difference in making money and not making money.
These technologies have so much relevance to global issues, to global problems, these challenges of food security, of environmental protection, not just climate change. It's a whole raft of planetary boundary issues, which are significant: water usage, for example, emissions, biodiversity.
You're dealing with a farmer that's interested in being more environmentally friendly and doing better spraying and, you know, getting more produce with less impact on the environment. This for me is the big picture that one really wants to get out there.
It is a no-brainer to put on your farm. I mean, it is one of those things that, you know, you would just pick up and say, I must have.
I can personally vouch for cutting your rate way down so far where you wouldn't even think it would kill. I mean, if I was a farmer, it was presented to me, I would buy it.
It's going to keep farmers on the farm because they will be able to afford using the savings of the cost of chemical and the cost of its application.
Oh, I think it's wonderful because originally he couldn't interest people locally in his magnetic, spraying. But now to see it used and recognized as such a good thing for the farmers, it's really a great feeling.
However, if you have a solution like MagrowTec, you can really get in and intervene in the supply chain, solve several problems at once, and really measure on that. Less water, less pesticide, better outcomes for farmers, better returns, and really using science and technology to improve the way that we grow our food.
So when I started this journey, I was excited, fearful. Where I sit now, I'm so glad. It's the singlest best thing I've ever done in my life. If you had said to me you could develop a technology that would use less chemical, labor, water, grow more healthy food, protect the environment, and create extra value for everybody involved in that supply chain, I would have eaten your hat off. And, did I think we would develop something like this as good as this? No, never in my wildest dreams. It's way better than I ever thought.